All right, guys. So once again, we have to talk about a story involving a biological male competing against a biological woman in sports, and the biological male dominating unsurprisingly. Okay, now this time, thank goodness, the biological female who's been screwed over in the competition is actually speaking up about this and saying, hey, you know what? This is unfair. This is unfair. However, because she is speaking out for women's rights and standing up for her rights as a woman to compete amongst other women in sports, she's being called transphobic by the mob, right? The mob is attacking her for standing up for her rights, okay? These are the same people that claim they care about women so much, right? Women's rights, okay? Especially when it comes to certain issues, right? But when it comes to other issues like a woman's right to compete in sports, amongst themselves and not against biological men, women's right goes out the window, right? Women's rights goes out the window. You're a bigot. You're transphobic, okay? If you stand up for yourself. Again, I find this incredible. Why is it okay for men to intrude on women's spaces in certain parts of society, but not in others, right? Again, I really don't understand the left and their hypocrisy. So we're going to talk about that. But before I get into that, I just want to let you guys know, if you like my channel, you want to support my channel, you can do so using the links in the description below. You support Patreon, you support the PayPal, you support the merch. There are multiple ways to support the channel if you would like to do so. Links are in the description. So without further ado, let's get into this. As a woman skateboarder is blasting Red Bull for letting a biological male dominate women in competition. Now, this is a little bit different than normal contact sports like swimming, or rugby, or some of these other sports where we've, covered, men dominating women. It's not necessarily a contact sport, but it is a sport that does involve a certain degree of athleticism, right? And this woman is claiming that, this man who competed against them has an unfair advantage. So let's go ahead and read about this, because I find this to be a fascinating story here. Skateboarder Taylor Silverman took to Instagram on Wednesday to call out Red Bull for allowing a biological male to compete against female athletes at a recent skate contest. In the post, Silverman issued her statement on the matter and also included an email she sent to Red Bull senior sports marketing manager Enrich Dummer. Quote, "I am a female athlete. I have been skating for 11 years and competing for several years. I have been in 3 different contests with trans women, 2 of which I placed second. At the last contest series I did for Red Bull, I placed second," said Silverman. She explained that at that contest, quote, "the trans competitor who took $1,000 in qualifiers, $3,000 in finals, and $1,000 in best trick, this totaled to $5,000 in the prize money meant for the female athletes. I took $1,000 in qualifiers and $1,750 for second place and $2,750 in total. The girl who took third received $750. The girl who deserved $1,000 for best trick took nothing, along with whoever would have placed third." Okay, so she's basically saying that we was robbed, right? As female athletes, we were robbed because you allow a man to compete against us, a biological man. Now, here's the thing. I believe, right, regardless of whether or not the man comes in first or not, okay, it's not fair for women to compete against men in any sport that involves any degree of athleticism, to be quite honest with you, because that man is going to have an easier time qualifying for whatever competition, right? And they're going to be taking a spot away from a woman who deserves that spot, right? In this case, this man is taking away money from women who work hard and deserved the prize money, right? So we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but let's read it more here. Quote, "I deserve to place first, be acknowledged for my win, and get paid. I reached out to Red Bull and was ignored. I am sick of being bullied into silence," Silverman stated. In the email, Silverman said that she wanted to express my concerns about what occurred at the Red Bull Cornerstone contest with the transgender competitor in the women's division. Quote, a biological man with a clear advantage won the women's division best trick and also won multiple qualifiers. This took away the opportunity that was meant for women to place and earn money, wrote Silverman. What happened was unfair, and at the time, I was too uncomfortable to speak up. Facts. Quote, I understand that in today's society, even some women think this is acceptable, but I believe in doing the right thing, even if it's not the popular thing. I now realize it's really important for me to speak up, and I'd like to schedule a time to talk, she concluded. Lillian Gallagher, who placed ahead of Silverman, won first in the 2021 Red Bull Cornerstone contest, also winning best trick. Now, again, she's going after Red Bull for this, right? Because I guess they're the sponsor of the competition. They're holding the competition, and they're the ones that decide who get to compete. And for whatever reason, Red Bull wanted to go woke and say, hey, we're going to allow a transgender woman, a biological man, to compete against biological women in an activity that requires, some degree of athleticism, okay? So, look, kudos to her for speaking out, because when it came to the whole Leah Thomas situation, which is probably the most notorious case of a biological man dominating biological women in, a competition, athletic competition, the NCAA swimmers, the female swimmers, refuse to speak out. They refuse to say anything. But if they did say something, what would have happened is that Leah Thomas wouldn't have been allowed to compete, right? And therefore, the competition would have been fair. But instead, they allowed Leah Thomas to take a spot away from a deserving biological woman because they didn't want to get canceled, right? They was afraid of the mob. So again, kudos to this girl for not being afraid of the mob. So again, this takes a whole lot of bravery, because she's going to get a whole lot of backlash for this. And we're going to get into that in a minute. Okay, so in response to Silverman's post, countless Instagram users lashed out against the female skateboarder, calling her transphobic and telling her to get better at skateboarding. So we're going to look at some of that real quick, okay? As here's some screenshots, right, of some of the comments in her post. Somebody says, sounds like you're just upset that you didn't get first. Man, you is geeking, shorty. Take your L and keep it. Damn, maybe you just are bad at skating. She's definitely not bad at skating. She's just better than you. If you can't handle losing, just say that. This post just shows your ignorance. Trans women are women. If you're so pressed about losing, focus more on your skateboarding than others. Wow, these people sound sexist, right? They sound sexist. How can you not believe women, right? You're supposed to believe women. This woman is saying that the competition was unfair, and you don't believe her, right? You must be a sexist. Do better, just do better. Train harder, overcome. Don't spread hate like this. Maybe hit some other than an ollie and a board slide, and you could get your bread up. Maybe you're just not that good. Have you ever considered that you just weren't good enough for first place? Your transphobia is showing, and it's not a good look. You're just ish at skating. Okay, so these people, right, who in my opinion are being sexist here by attacking this woman, because attacking a woman is sexist, is basically saying that, hey, you just got to get better, right? You just got to, I guess, skate harder or work harder to beat this person who may or may not have an athletic advantage over you because they're not the same sex. Now, I never skated before a day in my life, so I have no clue what advantages a man would have over a woman when it comes to skating, but I can imagine that there would be some. So I really can't speak on it. But Tim Pool, who is a skater, says males carry their center of gravity higher than females, creating advantages in skateboarding that cannot be changed due to HRT. Plus, with the Q angle, women are more prone to injury, creating a major disadvantage regardless of HRT. Now, some people are disputing what Tim Pool is saying, and they're saying that no, women, because they have a lower center of gravity, is actually better for skating. They actually have a biological advantage over men when it comes to skating because they have that lower center of gravity. But again, I really don't know because I'm not a skater. But regardless of that, we still understand that, with skating, there's an athletic component. And as long as there's an athletic component to it, then it shouldn't be allowed, regardless of whether or not women actually have an advantage over men. It should not be allowed, because I can imagine, maybe women have a lower center of gravity, and maybe that is an advantage to a certain extent. But men are faster, men are stronger, right? Men can do other things that may give them advantages in skating than women, right? So again, I would say that any athletic endeavor that has a component of athleticism, men and women should be allowed to compete against each other, right? Women should not be forced to compete against biological men. But let's read more of the attacks here. LMAO, this isn't even the first time you whine about not getting first place. Go get better at your skating and learn what good sportsmanship is, one user wrote. Wasting time being transphobic and posting essays when you could be skating, that's why you ain't win first place, another said. You're just ish at skating, LOL, or you could just be better at skating and actually win the already fair contest, another added. Wow. Imagine attacking a woman for saying that, hey, I don't want to compete against a man. I don't want a man in women's spaces. Again, these people are sexist, right? They're sexist. The push to separate sports by biological sex gained traction throughout the beginning of this year after transgender UPenn swimmer Leah Thomas was seen winning races far ahead of other biological female competitors. This has resulted in a number of states passing legislation enforcing the separation of sports teams by a person's birth sex. States that have passed these legislations include Florida, Oklahoma, Arizona, and South Dakota. So, yeah, I mean, look, I think this woman has a right to speak her piece about how she believes the competition is unfair. Now, whether or not, men or women have an unfair advantage, competing against each other when it comes to skating, I don't know. But what I do know is that there is an athletic component to it. And because there's an athletic component to it, they should be separate. You should compete based off your biological sex. And also, you should be forced to compete against competitors who are taking drugs as well, too. Because they're trying to transition to another gender, okay? Women should not be forced to do that, right? Again, imagine being somebody on the left where you're literally telling women that, no, you have to be happy with a man being in your space, right? You have to be happy with a biological man being in the locker rooms, being in the bathrooms, being in your sports, being in your beauty pageants. You just have to be happy with it, right? Be happy with men dominating you in almost every single event, whether it's athletic or not. Because again, this extends outside of just athletics. Like I mentioned, beauty pageant. They got men competing against women in beauty pageants, guys. Right? Men have now become more beautiful than women in some cases. Right? They have biological men on the cover of swimsuit magazines, places that women usually occupy. Right? Again, this is a slippery slope and we are falling off a cliff. Right? This is a free fall in which women will become marginalized in our society because the woke revolutionaries feel the need to promote biological males who, want to be women, right, as real women. And therefore, again, actual biological women are the ones that are going to suffer the consequences for it. Okay? It's already enough that, women's sports isn't as relevant as, I feel like it should be, considering how much the far left claims they support women's rights and women's sports. And it's even worse that now men are taking over their sport, making biological women even more irrelevant, right? So again, it seems to me there's a whole lot of bigotry going on here against this woman who's simply speaking out about how she feels the competition is unfair, having to compete against a biological man. But hey, the Democrat Party and the leftists, they call the conservatives sexist for, sticking up for women and their right to have their own spaces. I find that to be fascinating in 2022. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.